Welcome back on another diving adventure. In this video, I'm down in Cornwall for the last week of August, and I'm in a new spot, the Lizard Peninsula. I'm checking out the western side of the peninsula, specifically a bay called Poldhu Cove.
So it's looking a little bit choppier than expected. Gonna head out to this sort of area here, see what it's like. If it's absolutely dog shit, then I'll probably swim across over to this side of the cove.
The time was roughly about 5:30 in the evening, so I only had a couple of hours before it got dark, so I needed to get a shift on. The southern flank of this bay had some really interesting ground, and I particularly enjoyed this seaweed bed that I was sat in. It was a promising start to see a lot of small fish as well. So after several dives on the southern side, I turned my attention to the sandy area in the centre of the bay, looking for scallops or flatfish. The only thing I did see was this random spider crab just prowling the area on its own. After a quick yoink, I then left him to his own devices. Once I got to the northern side of the bay, I landed on this really ratty patch of kelp which was covered in spider crabs. Not long into the dive, I was greeted by a small group of bass, probably not big enough to shoot, but a reassuring sign that there were fish in the area. So I ended up staying in this area for a little while, hoping that I'd run into some larger bass along the way. But even if I didn't, it was just great to be out enjoying the water once again. One of my favourite things about being in the water is the quiet. Despite somewhat rushing around trying to find fish, I was actually super comfy in the water today, with most of my dives going over 1 minute 30 and some creeping up towards 2 minutes. But even with these fairly alright bottom times, I still wasn't seeing any more bass, so it was time to move on. So I decided to move in close to the cliffs, where there were lots of rocky gullies to explore, hoping to run into some bass that were hiding away from the current. If only that had been a nice 10-pound bass, eh? Obviously I checked out some of the cliffs looking in the cracks, but I only really run into these velvet swimmer crabs. I didn't see any lobsters. At around this point, I could feel that the tides had changed and the water was starting to run in the opposite direction. So I decided to move locations back over to the southern side of the bay, as that bay should now in theory be sheltered from the tide. It was getting late in the day, and this was my sort of last ditch attempt at finding some fish. Now I surprised myself with this one because my theory was actually right, and there were quite a few fish hanging around in this spot. On this dive, I saw a very nice bass just slowly swim into the kelp. So I decided to follow it, hoping that it would lead me down a tiny little gully through the kelp that I could find the fish. This turned out to be a massive mistake, because if I hadn't done that and I'd stayed above the kelp, I would have run into this bass. Luckily for me, it wasn't long until I had another opportunity. I saw another nice bass swim off in this direction, but there were also a couple of other nice sized bass in this area, so I took my opportunity where I could.
I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty lucky. That was pretty much my last dive. I was gonna sack it after that and I was starting to come back in, so to bump into that little group of bass was lucky. So there we go. Got a fish, I'd say that's probably in the mid-40s, so yeah, happy with that. That's enough for me tonight. Woo!
A few days later, on my last day of the holiday, I was given a quick opportunity to go and dive before we drove back home, and I practically flew out of the door to go and dive. Didn't check the tides or the conditions, I just went. Unfortunately, it was just the wrong time of day, really.
It's pretty shit at the moment. I'm hoping once I get a bit further out, it starts to calm down a little bit. You can sort of see where the sandy, dirty coloured water starts to end, so I'm hoping soon it will start to clear up.
Yeah, not exactly ideal. I kept swimming out further, hoping that the conditions would improve, but they didn't.
Right, as it's pretty crap here, I've got to change of plan. I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna climb up all this, and then I'm gonna head over to another cove a little bit further up, because it's not workable here. It's improvise time. There we go. Right, now we can chuck that up there and get my fins off. Right, I'll unload my gun in a minute as well. Woo! Right, we're safe now. It's funny because it doesn't even look that bad down there, but you can see all the silt. So this entire bay is just not workable. I could push further out there, but I don't really know the tides in this area, so I don't want to be in this area there and get caught out, especially as I've not got a lot of time. So that's where we're going to head to quickly, but I've got to get a shimmy on. Bit of a scramble as well, which I love. There you go. Nice and easy little scramble there. Look at that for a view. It's quite ironic that I find what looks like a really nice cove on the day that I'm about to leave. This place is perfect. Loads of rocks everywhere. Be a perfect place for a bit of rock pooling as well as a bit of diving from the looks of it. Leave this place Dollar Cove, a couple of coves up from Poldhu. Yeah, if I'd known about this place earlier, I probably would have come straight here. Very soupy at the moment, as expected.
With With the conditions being ever so slightly better than earlier and only having 60 minutes, I got to work exploring, looking in some holes, having a look around in the kelp, hoping that I was going to bump into a fish within that short time. Not quite the conditions you'd expect for Cornwall, more comparable with the conditions that you get in the Solent. Very crap fizz. Sometimes you just gotta make do. After not seeing a single fish on any of these dives, I was in no position to be picky, and for this little mullet to come out of nowhere, I wasn't taking any chances.
Been a while since I shot mullet, but why not, eh?
At this point, I had enough time for probably 1 or 2 more dives. But after having no more luck finding any fish, I had to call it a day and head back into shore. But I came back to shore in style.
Now this is the way to come into shore. Hey! Uh-oh. That was funny.
There you go. That's all I've got to show you for today, but still a fish. I'm pretty sure it's a golden grey mullet as well, so I've not shot one of these before, so hopefully it's tastes nice.
Now I didn't film cooking any of these fish on this one, but I can confirm that that mullet was probably the best mullet I've ever tasted.
Anyway guys, that's it for today's adventure. Cheers for coming along with me, and I know that a bass and a mullet aren't exactly a big flex to come into Cornwall, but at least I've gone to a couple of new areas, still had a nice time, and I've still caught some fish given the conditions. So cheers for coming along with me, and I'll see you on the next one.